Oh,
well,
let's go. It's time. We have rehearsed this, ladies and gentlemen. Plenty of hours.
Non-scripted, baby. But you know what time it is. You know what time it is.
TLF
Tier List Fridays. We're going back to the melees because, man, have there been changes all across the board.
Oh, you're not kidding. Last melee tier list that we did, so we did it based on what experience we've had testing them through the alpha and beta, and some of them have changed kind of by the time it was released and a few days after. So right now, it's fresh.
Yeah.
Plus, we're in the, no more changes, just
this iteration and stuff. And do note, this is a tier list purely made on the talents. It has nothing to do with numbers or performance, okay? This is purely made of how the talents work, okay? That's because we had some comments on, oh my god, how you guys doing tier lists when you don't even have Mythic Plus and raiding testing out? No, it's not about that. It's only based on the talents, and how the talents are structured, how the pathing goes, how many multiple builds you can go for, how logical
100%.
it goes, and how it feels. All of that, okay? And if you like this content and you want to see more of it, you know what to do. You know what to do.
The description for our Patreon page, because the Patreon platform is directly supporting all of the tier list and all of the class podcast and spec coverages of the beta and the main series and the streams and everything. And if you do decide to become part of the Patreon team and support us, we gratefully appreciate any contribution whatsoever. You can also choose different types of tiers. And what do they get for the tiers, man?
Well, you can get wallpapers with your main character in World of Warcraft. You get access to bloopers, Patreon monthly chats, which we haven't done in a while. We got to get back to that. And a whole lot of other cool stuff that it's only accessible for the Patreons. But hey, it's not required. It just supports us. So if you're already a Patreon, we thank you from the bottom of our heart. If you are thinking about becoming a Patreon, now is the time. Check the link, but after you watch the video. All right, checking out Arms Warrior, which is on the first list. And I mean, this is the spec, man. This is the spec.
I actually,
this is what you want to play.
It's been a while since we've done the last melee tiers, and I actually don't remember
almost a month.
What version of the Arms and Fury were, because
the good one, they were good.
They were good. Now they've been a little bit addressed, and I still love it. I feel like Arms. Obviously, I'm a little bit of an Arms fanboy. I know that 99% of you Warrior DPS are Fury, and you're missing out while you're slapping all the thing around with all the double weapons. But Arms is the exquisite spec. Is when you want to, have a little bit of class and slam the target with big numbers, because that's basically what Arms is doing. And I feel like, even though that kind of what Shadowlands wanted to do with Arms, yes, S tier. Goddamn S tier,
I know. I know it's
in
S tier.
Shadowlands, basically the devs wanted Arms to go back to big numbers, as opposed to BFA where it had the bleed damage. And Dragonflight does that even better. So we can talk about the talents all day. If you want a path for single target, if you want a path for AoE, you have different types of builds where you can go. We can go like a whirlwind-centric build, a cleave-centric build, a dreadnought overpower slammy-centric build, blade storm all around. So actually, Arms takes the talent tree, of course, takes every core cool ability of the warrior, and he can build a build around it. Build a build. I mean, that's how people talk.
You build the build, and you have a good build.
You can actually play the Arms that you wanted. Whether or not it will do as much damage as the other ones, well, I guess we'll have to see. But at the very least, it's super fun and rewarding. And I slap big numbers on the screen, and that's what WoW is about.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Arms S tier. Next on the list, Assassination Rogue. And I do have to make a disclaimer here. Every rogue spec we'll get to, including Assassination, is great. Okay. Now the most, I wouldn't say unfortunate thing, but they have to compete amongst each other in various ways and forms. What I will say about Assassination is that the burst potential for this spec, I think it's one of the, if not the best out of all three so far. You already have the problem solved with micromanagement in AoE, like not everybody. There's a brand new capstone for that will enable bleeds applied to like targets around you, which is really good. You can go for the super shadow dancey build, super bursty one. You can go for the super bleedy build as well. A lot of improvements have been made to the spec. I will not put it into S tier because there's some contenders there as well, but it's definitely an A tier for sure. If you always loved Assassination and you were kind of like feeling gimped in the past, well, fret not, Dragonflight will cover all your concerns mostly. Okay.
Out of all the rogue specs, Assassination is looking, in terms of the talent design, as the best for me. I would have put it at least into A tier in the way that it definitely tells you like
there's more.
You can bleed the target, you can poison the target. I don't know how Kingsbane is because it was like finicky last time. But I like what they're trying to do with Kingsbane. Once they settle on the numbers, this could be like a very solid alt. I'm not sure if it's a main for me, but Assassination is the spec that I kind of wanted to be playing for years.
It's the better version you always wanted if you played it in Shadowlands. So there you go. Next up, Enhancement Shaman.
Enhancement, baby. And,
used to be S tier. Would it still retain it?
I think it's still pretty close because, I mean, it did receive a bunch of changes and actually improvement to the talent tree, although I have heard different opinions. Judging it based on the talent trees, I have seen that the devs listened to some of the options there, although it still feels a little bit skewed and there's some like contentious topics there. Enhancement as a whole spec has been one of the first best designed specs. The class tree is probably the best out of all of the classes in the game right now, still with very, very, very few throughput nodes. They've made Elemental Blast replace Lava Burst, which sounds really stupid, and it deals a lot of damage, and that's something that a lot of enhancement have been craving for, and I will be excited to actually play with it once the expansion is released. There are some weird things, stuff like Hailstorm, you can skip Hailstorm, but then you have talents that buff Hailstorm while you're skipping it. So that's like weird stuff like that is kind of contentious. I would put it very, very top of the A tier, maybe bottom of the S tier. And if we were judging, there you go.
No, it's still S tier, man.
It's better. It's better than it was before, but
it cannot drop from last time because like okay, there were a couple of changes, but not like too big of a worry. There's still like the multiple builds, all the logical. I mean, every time I look at the Enhancement Shaman, like in the past and even now, it looks so good. And I wish some other specs would have the same mentality over there in terms of talents and placement and pathing and builds. It's still S tier. It's still S tier for sure. But you said bottom of the S tier, so it's there.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. I feel like Arms and one or two other are like a notch above. But I think Enhancement has been going through like really good things, and it has set the example for potentially most of the other melee players, with the exception of one or two.
Okay, the cat is back, baby. Let's go.
Feral
Druid, man, and oh man, I was so happy about this when I saw the first iterations that they put on after the initial builds, because the initial builds were like so skewed and gimpy and
It was basically what I did this morning after I drank my coffee.
Yeah, I know. That's the part of the lifestyle. But listen, Feral is going back to being super bleedy damage, and I cannot express how happy I am about this. Berserk has also been worked out to, okay, it's still a little bit spread, but not like how it was in the, like, I think at first it was like 4 different Berserk nodes or whatever. It's still okay. But I think that the major change is that they finally realized that the whole concept and core mechanic of Feral Druid should evolve around having more and more bleed and dot damage, and this is what it is. Sure, at some point you can like spend out a lot of like combo points to deal massive ferocious bites, that's still there, but at the end of the day, it's way more engaging as a Feral Druid, and most of the old school Feral Druids and, you know, the ones that played before, let's say Legion or whatever, kind of enjoyed this because this was the core concept of it. Now, you always had Assassination Rogue and Feral Druids who were like the melee bleeding specs of the game, right?
Dot specs. And I mean, listen, you have a cat, you know what it's like.
Yeah, this is the thing. It makes sense philosophically as well, right?
It's really good, and the way that they've addressed also the AoE issues of Feral and single target issues of Feral, that's really good, making Primal Wrath way more accessible. I think it's even baseline right now. And no,
it's
also at the top.
It's at the top, yeah. But they so it's kind of the same story as Assassination. Whatever concern you had as a Feral Druid in BFA and Shadowlands, it's kind of like covered now. So there's like, if you want to play a Feral, you're gonna be in very, very good hands. You're gonna love it. It's covering all corners.
Not to mention you can spread bleeds and abilities. You have more tools for AoE, and finally, something that you might have asked for, Sabertooth has been also addressed. Yeah,
it's been addressed. I mean, listen, there was always a 2-side discussion about Sabertooth. I'm not going to go into it again. I talked about it in multiple TLFs and Feral, the first Feral Druid video as well. I know some people like it, some people hate it. The thing is, it's all good now, okay? We're happy, okay? I think we're happy. No more problems. We don't need to stir up any kind of worms here once
good.
again.
It's good.
So I'm not putting it into S tier, but it's short in A tier as opposed to
really good. It's really good.
as it was in the opposed to how it was in the past. Next
And
up,
another
Frost
one that
Decay.
I believe has received some very good changes, and also another A-tier contender, as far as I'm concerned, is Frost Decay. It was also part of the, I think Frost Decay outside of Evoker was Decay the first melee.
Yeah, it was the
came
build.
out with Druid,
Yeah.
and Feral was like in the shitter. So Frost Decay basically was the, oh, this is how you design a melee spec, where it was clear that on the left side is single target obliteration build, and on the right side is breath. And I know a lot of people don't like the breath. Now you can actually get a lot of beef into your rotation without having to take breath. Not to mention that they've done something that a lot of Frost Decays have been asking for ever since BFA, and that is combine the build where you can take obliteration and ice cap at the same time, which is, thank you, oh dear lord. This is so much fun right now, and you have so many more tools. Frostbite has been made more accessible. A lot of the talents have been made more accessible and made to make sense, where you don't feel like you have to, like, oh, I gotta go all the way on this side to get the talent that I want, or all the way on that side to get all the talent that I want. So it's really good. I'm not gonna go over too much. We already covered it in the Frost Decay video, which you can check after you watch this TLF, but I think it's, for me, it's, I don't know if it's better or not than Feral. I think I'll put it behind Feral, but they're very, very, very close.
Yeah, I'll put them on the same pedestal, to be honest. It's hard. I mean,
I think Feral deserves a little bit of a spot.
Yeah, it deserves a little, because it suffered a lot in the darkness. Okay. Fury Warrior. Now you had the argument about arms, you know, being what it was, and having, you know, a lot of people preferring Fury, but come on, let's face the truth here.
Oh,
Fury's amazing, man.
As much as
talents are. Wow.
It's really good, man. As much as I like arms way better than Fury, Fury is very, very well designed. I mean, I would put it on the same level as Enhancement, although maybe I'm biased towards arms, but I think like Fury's doing as better, if not a better job than
it's
these
an S tier.
In terms of, definitely S tier.
Hard to make them compete, Enhancement and Fury. I'll just go by the feeling on looking up on these talents. Like for Fury, when I saw it, like the last time, I think it was yesterday, it felt complete. It felt like, okay, this is it. This is like giga complete. It works. Obviously, we're not going to get into tuning and all of that, but in terms of like how all of the abilities were placed in, the paths, the nodes, and how many builds you can go for, it's just exquisite. So
really good.
This is the thing. Warrior as a general, unfortunately, we cannot touch on prot here, but the specs on the warrior class are mainly like great. If you want to play a tank, you can go prot, no problem, it's gonna have a blast. You want to play the more calculated, strategic type of a melee, which is arms, you can go that, you're gonna have a blast. You want to go like more berserk mode, smooth ass, you know, jumping all over the place, that's Fury, and they're like almost perfect in my view, at least. Judging by the talents again.
Warrior as a whole, as a class, with prot as well, is one of the best designed classes, right up there with shaman, and it should be taken as example as to what you can do with fun abilities, fun core mechanics, and build diversity. And I think Warrior is one of the classes, if not the best, that does it the best.
Yeah. Okay. Havoc, Demon Hunter. I know Lego was very happy about Havoc, Demon Hunter.
It's getting some good changes.
I mean, apart from, I think it retains Blur, right?
Yes, Blur is now baseline for Havoc.
It's baseline for Havoc, which was, I guess you can have an argument about that, because, you know, it was kind of quote-unquote iconic for Havoc Demon Hunters, no problemo. Maybe that was a little bit too much for Vengeance, but needless to say, one thing that I think we touched on this on the last TLF as well about Havoc, they have not continued with the sinful brand phenomenon that is going on live.
Thank you.
And there's what do you have? You have do you still have like the momentum?
So you have momentum is no longer a capsule. Now you have essence break. It's a little bit beefed up, which is really cool. Shattered Destiny has been put in, which adds a little more flavor to the demonic build, where you can, when you consume Fury, you extend your metamorphosis stage for a lot longer. So you can actually play into a way where you can be a demon for longer. Then you have the by any means necessary, which I think is really, really cool, where it affects your single school damage abilities, stuff like Elysian Decree that does arcane damage, and it would make it the mastery affected as well, giving it like a big burst of damage. And this is probably meant to fix the issue with Havoc having a mastery as a shit stat, which we've talked about in different specs, in different situations, where mastery is always a contentious topic for certain specs when it's bad. When it's the DPS loss, that's really weird. So I think It kind of lost like bombardment, which is I guess.
Yeah, I was I kind of was a little bit sad. I always liked that, and I was happy that was there.
That was interesting
because.
To be fair, I loved Bombardment a lot, but what they did to Throw Glaive, I think it's actually really cool. So now you can take, I think, Furious Glaive, where now it consumes Fury and does more damage, and you can take, they've renamed it Moarg's Bionic. I think they renamed it just yesterday or just today. So you can basically have Throw Glaive as part of your core rotation. Not to mention, if you do play Momentum, it's going to be a little bit hectic and a lot of bursty, and you can play Momentum with Demonic now, and it's so good. It's A tier. It's not quite S tier for me, but it's very high in the A tier. I would put it in front of Frost, but I don't know about Feral.
Now Feral keeps the spotlight still. You ain't gonna get rid of Feral just yet. Okay, next on the list, Outlaw Rogue. And I gotta say, Yar, baby, very much Yar. Since we like kind of both started playing Outlaw on live, and we kind of like both fell in love with the spec, and the multiple APL situation and reacting to everything that's happening around there. It's a very engaging playstyle. We were kind of a little bit sad that Blunderbuss didn't make it into Dragonflight initially, but now. Fan the Hammer is basically Blunderbuss on the talent tree. Now, that's one example. The Outlaw overall spec talent tree is close to amazing as well. There's no other way to put it. It's like basically you're getting everything that worked for Outlaw in oh sorry, my phone, I'm too excited. On Outlaw on live, it's there. Plus a couple of more things. Now you have the flexibility to go for a super like ambush style build with Shadow Dance over there, super single targeting, no problemo. You have like the Blade Fury build, which has the Fan the Hammer side as well over there with the almost Blunderbuss situation. So in my eyes, this is an S tier, no problem, hands down.
Go for it. I love
have a hard time putting it either in front or behind Enhancement.
I will leave you to make that call. The thing is, I would probably put it a little bit in front, just because Enhancement has one or two things that I personally don't like.
Yeah, fair enough.
But what they're doing with Outlaw is something that I've also argumented. I love the Fan the Hammer, the shoot your pistol until you bleed. And then or ambush, so that's really cool, and I think that overall Rogue is maybe also close to one of the best designs classes.
Yes, we'll get to Subtlety in a minute, because first we have to talk about Red Paladin, and I'm probably going to retain a lot of my thoughts and opinions about Red in a future video, full on dedicated for this spec. However, I'm going to place it into D tier right now. Because listen, so at core, at the surface, the talent tree isn't that bad. At the surface, if you start getting into it, it becomes a mess. And one of the main problems is the general Paladin talent tree, which I think is like the most overloaded with throughput, and that's not a good idea for any spec. We know this happened to like Shadow Priest, and there's a lot of examples for it. Granted, there has been some good changes overall for the general talent tree, right? Like the Sanctified Red has become the original one, where you like blast out, holy damage all around. It used to be the prot version where you had like the judgment thing. Yeah. Maraud's also now increased the Avenging Wrath by 1 second. It used to be 0.5 seconds. Your Hammer of Wrath extended. Mad Paragon, not Maraud's, yes. It extends now but that's down to general talent tree. All of the things the community has asked for or feedback, it seems like it's never been listened to. That's one thing. Second, I already made a video about the Paladin talent tree and all of the issues I feel it has. They're still there. One other thing, with this latest build, they basically nerfed the spec because they nerfed Art of War procs. All right, okay? And nerfing Art of War procs basically means nerfing a whole lot of other talents all in the line. The Seraphim procs, the 2-set and 4-piece proc, all of those are nerfed because of the Art of War proc. I don't want to get into like this whole push for consecration, which a lot of people don't like. The fact that they put what was it, Empyrean Power, I think they put that as a node before you would take Righteous Verdict, which is what? Dude, I'm not gonna, again, this is a tier list, but a tier list video. We're gonna have a full video about this.
There's gonna be some emotions, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, it's for me, it's very bad. I was always a main red paladin. It was always my first spec to level through since Burning Crusade. I think this is the first expansion where I'm not gonna even touch it. So it's a D tier for me. I don't know how much Flame played about it, but you know.
So Marcelian is a diehard red paladin fan, and I am like a more noob average friendly. And even I went into it and I was like a little bit weird. I was not a fan of how the talents were. It played okayish on the surface, but once you really, the thing is, when I played it, it was alpha. We had like no damage meters, we had no competition, no end game content. But trying to put myself into a situation where, okay, I'm in a raid and I want to perform. I want to go into spec and understand how it's working, how I can improve it. And then when I looked at the talent here, I was like, what, dude? No fucking way. And the thing is that the dev just went like opposite to what the people wanted, and that's never really a good thing, and it hasn't paid off in the past. It doesn't look like it's paying off now, and it's just a shame.
Yeah, last disclaimer here. A lot of people were freaking out that, oh my god, the red paladin damage on alpha and beta is out of this world. It's not. That was a bug from the continuous seraphim procs from aura of from the Retribution aura. Yeah. Okay, that's not like how the numbers are. And now it's nerfed, so don't even go there. It wasn't as intended, that damage. Okay, and again, we're judging this only by the talents, not performance or anything like that. So let's keep it in short. But to more positive news, let's get to Subtlety Rogue.
Some happy notes.
Yeah, Subtlety Rogue also received a couple of changes, and they were like mostly for the good. Talked to Fu a lot about this. Fu was very, very helpful on keeping us updated. Fu for the Ravenhold Discord. He kept us up to date with all the changes and what it meant. And it's basically like they received like a 20% damage buff overall. Dance Macabre is there as well. To a talent tree that was already pretty good. I will say that initially Subtlety Rogue kind of suffered from this lack of identity as opposed to Outlaw and Assassination, because you didn't really have like something that would stand out as subtlety, and the glaring issues were still there as they always were. I mean, okay, sure, you did like super good priority damage single target, but always the issue with cleave. You could go for, you know, super giga potent AoE plus 5 targets, but a lot of the talents weren't implemented or buggy or stuff like that. Now it's looking a lot better, especially with the empowered Shadow Dance, which is like, you know, Subtlety will have a stronger Shadow Dance for that's one thing that will make it stand out, and Shadow Dance is a core ability for Subtlety Rogues.
Identity-wise.
Yeah, that's their identity more or less, and it's like looking a lot better. It's not S tier just yet, but it's definitely bumping up to A tier. I would go as far as like maybe not better than Frosty Cage just yet, because there's still things they need to be worked on, and not everything is
still
working.
A tier,
but A tier is great.
Spec is A tier.
Yeah. It used to be lower, but now it's looking pretty good. So I'm happy. Like, this is why I was saying the Rogue tree, like all specs from the Rogue, are looking almost complete. I would definitely, if you want to play a rogue, regardless of the spec, you're gonna have a good time, as opposed to paladin.
all right.
So, next,
okay,
survival
hunter, my ex main that I have loved, and right now survival hunter with the latest changes and how it's looking, taken into consideration the general talent tree. For me, it's either really good or really bad. So let's, before we go forward, put it into B tier, and the B tier is like,
oh my god, no way.
I'm not too sure what to think of it. It doesn't feel like it's amazing. It doesn't feel like it's trash. So survival has received a bunch of changes, and hunter as a whole. Surplus thing is the always weird one. And if we're gonna talk about the weird one, I can talk about the ranger talent as well, which increases kill shot, steady shot, arcane shot damage. I can see kill shot, but steady shot and arcane shot damage, like, what's the point? I cannot see through the talent tree without probably playing it in a raid or a mythic plus how relevant steady shot and arcane shot are for survival, how they actually feel for a melee spec to shoot out those spells. Not to mention, priority-wise in your rotation, would they actually fit damage-wise? Because obviously we're not talking about damage, because that's, you know, down to tuning. But if we're talking about the rotation for a survival hunter, when do you even fit those? And then takes us back to, why is this talent even there? What is it supposed to do? On the flip side, I think either coordinated assault or one of its upgrades has been changed. Now the effect of it has been moved to a new cooldown, and I'll get to that in a second. Now kill shot can hit 3 targets, and that's really cool for cleave. and that really is a breath of fresh air going away from just bombing the heck out of the place. Another good thing that I want to point out that they're doing to survival is addressing the single target, because the single target was very, very bare bones, and mastery only affected pretty much single target outside of, I think, Serpent's thing. It didn't really affect AoE at all, because Carve does no damage, even though it consumes focus. But now there's maybe a bit too many talents that increase the damage of Mongoose Bite and Raptor Strike, of course, by extension. But at least it does feel like, okay, if I do want to go single target, I go on the right-hand side all the way down to Spearhead, which I actually like, and we can slap in single target. And by the look of the overall general talent tree for survival, it definitely looks like its single target is receiving a big upgrade, while its AoE is a little bit meh. Fury of the Eagle, or whatever the cooldown for the AoE spear jabby thing, it's tuning. I mean, I'm not gonna talk too much about the tuning, but when the tuning is so low, you cannot really mention it's like, okay, why am I even playing this? Because when you pick it to test it out, you feel like you have a hole in your damage that you're like trying to put some capstones into it and trying to make it relevant in whatever way, and it just feels very, very weird. So like half of what survival does with the general talent tree in consideration is really cool, and half is like really, really weird, or at least really bad. So that's why I'm kind of on the fence of where to put it. I like where they're going with the single target though, but not so much with the AoE.
Okay, fair enough. It's no red paladin though. Okay.
Nothing is red paladin, man.
Next on the list, Unholy Decay, which a little birdie told me that Unholy Decay is so smooth, so great, it's so amazing. It's
I think as far as I'm concerned, I don't know how much of a fan of Unholy is, but I think even you can appreciate by looking at the talents.
Oh yeah, I like
the way that they're doing certain things that we've heard it at the very least in our podcast. People asking for, you know, disease build.
Yeah, they listen. This is they listen to like almost everything the community asks for. This is crazy.
And it's cool because the Unholy talent tree reminds me very closely. I would put it top of S tier. The Unholy talent tree reminds me very closely of the Assassination. It's very compact, but you have like clear, like this on the right side, or on the left side because you're watching the camera. You have pet builds, and you can use Gargoyle, and you can empower Gargoyle, and you can empower your pets, and you're like literally with the capstone a commander of the dead. And how cool is that?
No, it's
kind of solidifies that we're never gonna get a Necromancer spec ever. But on the flip side, on the right hand side, you have diseases. You know, what is it? Bursting Sores is back, and Festermite is back. Basically, what made Unholy a king in BFA, and that was one of the most complicated setups to pull off, and the most rewarding as well, which is something that we don't really see very often in WoW when it comes to spec design. Something that's difficult to do, but when you do it, you feel like, wow, man, I'm so glad I'm paying my subscription every month.
Hell yeah. Plus like the pathing. I mean, you can still, if you like want to go for some crazy stuff, you still have like pretty decent and unpunishing pathing, right? So you can try some hybridization over there as well, which is really cool. Definitely top of the A tier, of the S tier, no doubt. I mean, I haven't played DK in a very long time, but again, looking through the talents and how they look, perfect. Okay, last on the list, Windwalker Monk. They have done a couple of updates to the talent tree. I was actually looking at what J-Funk had to say. Mostly, I haven't seen Babylonius lay his thoughts, but the Windwalker community is pretty happy overall. It was already a pretty good spec tree. Now it looks even better. It's like this spec has been like, at least for me, one of like the coolest ever since its inception, one of the coolest melees you can ever play. Granted, didn't really like it that much in Shadowlands just because of the whole push on, you know, spinning crate kicks all down and boneless, bro.
Spinning a little bit too much, getting dizzy.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, it was one playstyle and one playstyle only. They tried to address it with the tier set and all that, but now you have the possibility to go spinning crate kick. You have the possibility to go Giga single target. You have the combos on each side. It's really good. At
the very least, one of the most interesting selling points for Windwalker for me, because I'm seeing a lot of specs I'm more excited about a lot more other specs than Windwalker. But what's interesting for me with the Windwalker is that it has probably one of the most capstones ever. And the pathing is in such a way where you can actually build it in a lot of ways if you so desire. Maybe you won't do as much damage as the best build, but you might be able to have way more fun than with other specs. So for me, I have a problem putting it in front or behind Frost Decay, but I'll leave you that because you played more in Windwalker than me anyway.
I would put it actually close to Feral. it's like close to perfection in a lot of ways. And again, this is if you're like biased, if you don't enjoy the spec that much, I can understand. But judging it strictly from its talents and pathing and all of the nodes and capstones and multiple options you have for going builds, it's there, man.
It's very hard to find a con to the spec.
Yeah,
really
I mean, on this argument, you can put it into S tier.
You have Outlaw with like Phanhammer, like, whoa, that's cool. Or you have like Assassination with like Indiscriminate Carnage. Whoa, that's cool. Windwalker doesn't really get really cool stuff, but it doesn't have bad stuff either.
That's exactly the point. So a lot of these specs either have like all of the things that were great in previous expansions baked into the talents. Now I'm talking about the S tiers, or have really cool new stuff. And the ones from A tier are just like, you know, they're
really good.
They're very, 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 very good. I mean, nothing is too bad to say about them, okay? But this is the final image.
I mean, it looks a little bit skewed, but what you have to understand is that we are excited about this, and not because it's like, oh, we're excited about everything, because I see you in the comments there, but the talent tree breathes such a fresh breath of fresh air onto all of the specs that it's really hard not to feel
Except
like,
paladins.
it's really hard not to feel that, oh, this is actually really cool. I get to play with this. I never had these two at the same time, and this is a good example of why this is probably, well, at least for me, the selling point of the expansion. And looking at how well we are receiving all of these specs, like so much S and A tiers, so cool.
It's all around great news for most of these specs, and this is the final image. We'll see how things turn out once we get into like more beta testing and, you know, getting into the pre-patch and all of that. That is a video for another time. But hey, thank you, Patreons, for supporting the content that we do. As always, we love you guys. Keep on doing what you're doing, and thank you for watching the video. We shall see you soon
in the next
one. Bye-bye. Please fix paladins. Please fix them, please.
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classic or retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.